Water is very essential to life. In fact, statistics shows that 70% of the human body consists of water. Hello and welcome to SME Hub. My name is Omobolanle Adeshi. Today on the show, we will be delving into water production business. But that'll be after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Water is one of the key and probably the most fundamental and indispensable of the natural resources. Water is an essential part of man's existence. Without water, there will be no life. Every human consumes water and needs it to carry on the activities of life. Nigeria is a blessed nation with a large population and rich natural resources. Water is abundantly available, and there exists a high demand for water by the rising population. Setting up a bottled water production plant in Nigeria is a very good investment and highly lucrative, as there exists an opportunity to meet the increasing demand for water and make some profits. In Nigeria today, there exist lots of bottled water producing companies. However, because the demand for water is very high and insatiable, there is still space in the market to be penetrated by new companies. The bottled water market already has existing companies and competition. However, there is no threat of new entrants. New companies can easily penetrate the market as there are no entry or exit barriers. There is high demand for clean and pure drinkable water in Nigeria, and this demand increases as the population increases. There exists a great profit potential in the bottled water market. That's the reason most top organizations producing soft drinks also venture into producing bottled water. The Association of Table Water Producers of Nigeria, ATWAP, has lamented over the scarcity of foreign exchange to procure raw materials for production, noting that the situation is making it difficult for operators in the water industry since the sector is heavily dependent on importation. The bottled water market in Nigeria was equal to $1.15 billion calculated in retail prices in 2015. Until 2025, the water market in Nigeria is forecast to reach $7.52 billion in retail prices, thus increasing at a compound annual growth rate (CAGR) of 16.89% per annum for the period between 2020 and 2025. This is a decrease compared to the growth of about 25.19% per year registered between 2015 and 2019. The average consumption per capita in value terms reached $6.53 per capita in retail prices in 2015. In the next 5 years, it grew at a compound annual growth rate (CAGR) of 21.95% per annum. In the medium term, by 2025, the indicator is forecast to slow down its growth and increase at a compound annual growth rate (CAGR) of 13.97% per annum.
Thank you for joining us again. Now we will be talking water business, and I have with me right here Dr. Olowoyeye Olushola Emmanuel. He is the Chief Business Promoter at Sparkling Synergy Foods Limited. Thank you and welcome to SME Hub.
Thank you for having me on your show.
So tell us, what does it entail to go into water production business?
Okay, going into water production business is a unique type of business where you have to pay a lot of attention to quality. Quality should be your number one priority. And you need to also understand that the business involves a lot of research into getting to know the alkalinity of the water. And then some have natural alkaline and some with a very low level of alkalinity.
I know those are some technical terms and we will definitely delve into them. Okay. But first, let's understand the cost implication of going into this business.
Okay, going into water production generally globally is not a business that easy for SMEs to just go into. But in Nigeria, you know, we've always found our way to do business differently. Because if you're going to get water at the highest level of quality, quite a lot of investment have to be put into it. And in Nigeria, we can face it. We have the sachet water, we have the bottled water. The market for sachet water is quite, large. But the bottled water also have its own market. And I think almost general acceptance for bottled water in Nigeria is also very so much increased. And that's why we have several brands already playing in that space.
So would you say that people are now moving or migrating from taking sachet water to bottled water? And if yes, what do you think is responsible for that?
To a reasonable extent, I would say yes. And the percentage keep increasing day by day. The main reason why is that people are getting to recognize the need to take quality water. And so they are gradually...
You're saying bottled water has more or better quality than the sachet?
production process. The production process guarantee a bit of more quality than the sachet water.
So you were talking about acidity and alkalinity earlier on. What role does that play in the quality of water produced?
Okay, in production of water and looking at the process involved, the production of bottled water involves the process of making sure that, first of all, the bottles that are being used are properly rinsed before it gets into the filling, then gets to the capping, before it gets to the point of shrink wrapping it, before it finally gets to the final stage. However, before the water even gets filled, there are some levels of purification that needs to go through.
Okay, walk us through the levels of purification.
Now, depending on the way your factory is designed, first of all, your raw water will come out, and from the raw water, you can go through what we call the twin oxide.
What determines the source of your raw water?
Now, the source of your raw water, basically in Nigeria, we use borehole or well to bring out the raw water. It depends on how deep
your well
your well is. Some 400 feet, some 600 feet, but make sure that it's industrial so that the volume that comes out at any point in time is sizable enough. And so when it goes into the raw tank, then it goes through the twin oxide process, and then it goes into what we call multi-level filter. We also have what we call microfilter and carbon filters.
Okay.
So after doing that, it now goes into another level of tank before it now goes into what we call reverse osmosis. Now, reverse osmosis is like a machine that works like the heart, that purifies, the blood.
Okay.
Your blood goes through your heart, and then a fresh one comes out, again. So that's what the reverse osmosis machine, we use it for.
So what does it do to the water?
Now, what it does is that it creates like a combustion between the water, so that if there's any micro, organism or item, it takes care of that. And then after leaving the reverse osmosis, it then goes under a UV light, which kills any form of remaining germs that might be in the water before it gets into filling.
It sounds like a lot of chemistry, and chemistry is my favorite too. I'm enjoying the conversation. But let's talk about the cost of all of these processes, because you talked about the different machines that you just mentioned now. I imagine that they cost some amount.
That's why I mentioned earlier that going into water production business, you have to choose. Are you going in for the highest level of quality? Are you going in just to produce basic water? And that's why orientation and the awareness about the kind of water you take is really, really very important. Am I just taking water just to quench my taste, or I'm taking water that can make me live more and live long?
Yes, you've not told us the cost of those machines.
Now, the cost of those machines is based on what you set up. You can set up on a very lower level scale,
okay,
which may be within the range of 10 to 15 million. But if you are going to go into very high quality, you should be looking at 50 to 60 million.
Yeah. And what's the return rate? Was it how I like?
Return on investment in water business has always ranged between 10 to 15%. It has never moved beyond that at any point in time.
Is that sizable? Is that commensurate to what you put in?
So, and that's why you must be mindful of why you are going into water business from the beginning. For us, it's beyond just the return, profitability, but it's a social goal for us to actually help a lot of people to take more clean and healthy water. So that's one of the reasons. So if you go all in the aim of just profit, you might not really stay
So you're saying it's not as profitable as...
Not so.
Despite the fact that there is a huge market out there.
Yeah, because there's continuous demand, so you continue to record good sales. However, if you look at what it costs in production, and the way production currently goes in Nigeria, where we use plastic bottle, there's a lot of waste. Because immediately after the consumption, the cap is waste, the bottle is waste, the label is waste.
But there's the process of recycling.
Now, the process of recycling is not so much deep yet. We don't yet have so many companies that take waste product from us and give us a refined product in the process. So we still record a lot of waste, and it's like a total loss. We are unable to bring it back into the production process. And also talking about cost, I'll say in the last 4 to 5 months, it's that 15% has come down to as low as 2 to 3%, because diesel costs just moved from about 245 to about 650. And so if you have to continue in production, you can't reduce your quality, you can't reduce the production process. The best you can do is just to make sure you optimize your efficiency. So
talk to us about some of the challenges you've encountered. You've been doing this for 3 years now. What are the challenges you've encountered?
There are quite a lot of challenges. However, we've been able to continue to scale through, and we are also putting more processes in place for us to be able to surmount these challenges. First, to get the right quality people who believes in the vision and the mission of the organization of making sure that we produce the highest quality of water. 2, sourcing raw material locally here in Nigeria. There's only limited market for those who provide us with preforms, caps, and they are only in some certain specific areas. It's not generally in every market that you see water material product. Beyond that, when it comes to equipment suppliers are also very few in Nigeria. We have been able to partner with a company. We have an Indian supplier who supplies.
Do you need constant supply of equipment?
When you have any production line or production process, there will always be need for continuous maintenance. You have to overhaul the system, average of some every 3 months, some every 6 months.
Really?
You have to do a maintenance. Because you have to grease.
But that's because it's this industry, right? Because there are other industries where once you get, for instance, tailoring business, once you get your machine or your, be it electrical or the manual, you don't have to replace it except you want to buy more.
Okay. Now, you might look at tailoring in that way, but if you look at industrial tailoring, where big equipment are being used and multiple equipment are being used, is the same thing. You have to do maintenance.
Maintenance is different from you replacing your machine.
No, you don't necessarily have to replace, but you have to maintain, you have to overhaul, you have to upgrade from time to time. So like now, your shrink wrapper, there's a machine specifically that is used for putting the digital, coding. We call it the coding machine. For each bottle is coded. And you can use an ink coding, you can also use a laser coding. So the highest form is to go laser, but quite very expensive and very expensive to maintain. Because if there's any fault, you need to use a specialist to be able to fix it.
So, okay, go ahead.
So that's what I was trying to explain about tailoring. If you're still doing your normal manual tailoring, basic, you can put your oil yourself.
How
you don't need a specialist to do that.
Of course.
But if you're using a highly automated system, you will definitely need a supporting,
So you get this equipment here in Nigeria?
Yes.
How do you get your products to your consumers? And I also would like to know, considering the markets, the way the Nigerian economy is, a lot of people would rather go for the cheaper option of maybe sachet water, which of course is probably the reason they have a large market. How do you get your target market? What are things you do to convince people to go for this option?
Okay, now for people to go for the option of bottled water, I think general acceptance is there. People have, you want to hold an event, you won't do sachet water.
Of course, I'm talking purchasing power now for the average Nigerian home.
Now, for average Nigerian, what we've been able to do so far in terms of retailing the product, we've got quite a lot of supermarkets to work with so that they can get it in large quantity so that costs will be a bit more.
How much does it cost for a pack?
An average pack ranges between 450, 600, 750, depending on volume that you take.
No, I'm talking, how many do you have in a pack?
In a pack is a bottle of 12.
12?
Yeah.
The 12 go for 450?
Yes, for some.
Oh,
yeah.
That's reasonably...
If you're going to take like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 packs at once, the price goes down.
Okay.
But if you're taking lower quantity, it can be as high as 700, 800. But with the diesel now coming into cost of production, you've seen most water now going for minimum 600, 700 per pack.
But that's about 40 naira per bottle.
Yes.
That's reasonably cheap. Considering the amount and all of the resources put into production.
Yeah, so that's why you need to also look at the rating for each of those bottled water. You know, the level of purification.
What's the size in CL?
So 75 CL, there's 75 CL, there's 60 CL, there's 50 CL.
Okay, so if you were to look at the cost of production compared with the market out there, how would you size it? What's the proportion?
Now, if you are looking at the cost of production with the proportion of the market, the demand is always there. That's one thing about water. However, are people ready to demand for quality? And that is what influences the price. So the more quality you look for, the more expensive it is. But I'll say Nigerians currently average between 50 to 60% are demanding for quality gradually. And it keeps increasing.
What's the standard pH for?
The standard pH should be from
quality,
7.
Good quality.
Good quality start from 7 upward.
That's neutral upwards.
Yes. Anything below that, you have to be very
acidic.
careful. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us about the things to look out for, mistakes to avoid when going into this kind of business.
Okay, so the mistakes and few things you need to take note in going into this business. You need to first of all ensure that you get the right equipment supplier where you can get local support in case there's any breakdown or there's need for maintenance on your production line. So it's important you source material, you source for equipment locally, and you get local support for the machine. 2, the type of machine also matters, because most of those machines, some of them will do 500 per hour, 1,000 per hour, 2,000 per hour. So depending on the grade of machine that you're able to get, will determine the output you'll be able to generate. And try as much as possible automate major part of almost the production line, so that you have limited manual input. So it doesn't mean that you still not use people, but they will just be observing the way the system is flowing. They will only get involved when things do not go the way they should go. So you need to get the right people, you need to get the right equipment supplier, and your location also matters. If you get the locations right, you have access to the market.
What determines the location?
Now, it's where your market is. 2 is where you get good water coming from the ground, so that your level of treatment will also be minimal. But where the quality of the water coming out is not so good, you have to do quite a lot of investment.
So you talked about reducing manual input as much as possible. So where does the staff come in? Okay,
now there are several other areas within the production line that you will require staff. First of all, you need to monitor your inventory properly. So you need to have a very good store manager who will monitor and make sure that the inventory that comes in and inventory that goes out, both in terms of raw material and in the finished goods. 2, you need people who are experienced in blowing. We call them pet blowers, those who blow those bottles you see. Those bottles you see comes out in preform like small, and then we put it into a blowing machine and we blow it into different designs that you want. And so you need people that are experienced in that area to handle it. You also need people in the section for labeling. Okay, you know, there are 2 types of labeling in this industry. You can use a shrink label, or you use what we call BOP labeling, where the machine itself can actually label itself. So you can actually use staff in doing that. Also, you need people to observe, you know, if any of the product that is on the line is not in line with the standard. And then you also need, eventually, when the machine finally wraps it, you need people to pallet it. We call it palleting. So you
What does palleting mean?
Palleting means that when the product comes out, it needs to be on a pallet for a while, for like in batches of like 100 in a pallet, because that's what we will use in loading it out of the factory at the end of the day. So averagely, you need nothing less than 18 to 20 people around the line.
So what's your staff strength like?
Currently now we have about 22.
22. Yeah. Interesting. Well, it's been a very interesting conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Dr.
Oluwoyeye
Olushola Emmanuel is the Chief Business Promoter at Sparkling Synergy Foods Limited. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure you've learned a lot about taking quality water. Well, this is where we wrap it up today on SME Hub. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. My name is Omobolanle Adeshui. Remember that the conversation continues on all our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as YouTube. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.